Imagine a mind so brilliant, so determined, that it could reshape the world. That's the story of Victor Von Doom, aka Dr. Doom. A genius, a sorcerer, a ruler, and one of Marvel's most feared villains. But what if I told you that this mantle of doom could one day be passed to none other than Tony Stark, our very own Iron Man? Today, we dive into the tragic origin of Dr. Doom and explore a jaw-dropping what-if scenario, where Stark himself becomes the new Dr. Doom. Victor Von Doom wasn't always the tyrant we know today. Born to Romani parents in Latveria, Victor's life was marked by loss. His mother, Cynthia Von Doom, was a sorceress who made a deal with dark forces to protect their people, a deal that went horribly wrong. After her tragic death, her soul was trapped in hell by none other than Mephisto, Marvel's devil. Victor's mission was set: master both science and sorcery to free her from eternal torment. But genius, they say, can lead to arrogance. Victor's obsession blinded him to a critical error in his calculations, one pointed out by a classmate, Reed Richards, who would become Mr. Fantastic. Victor ignored the warning, and the resulting explosion not only disfigured him, but also shattered his ego. This was the moment Victor's journey took a darker turn. Now scarred and bitter, he fled to Tibet, where he forged his iconic suit of armor and returned to Latveria, where he would overthrow its leaders and declare himself ruler. Thus, Dr. Doom was born, wielding a terrifying combination of advanced technology and dark magic. But ruling Latveria wasn't enough for Doom. His thirst for power led him to challenge some of the most powerful cosmic beings in the universe, including the Beyonder during the infamous Secret Wars. Doom's ambitions knew no bounds. On Battleworld, he not only sought victory over his enemies, but aimed for godhood itself. Using his unmatched intellect, Doom managed to steal the Beyonder's near-omnipotent power, becoming, for a brief moment, a god. But even as a god, Doom's fatal flaw, his overwhelming arrogance, was his undoing. The Beyonder eventually reclaimed his power, and Doom fell from grace once again. His tragic quest for redemption through his mother, combined with his ego-driven hunger for power, define him as one of Marvel's most complex and layered antagonists. Now, let's look at a crazy what-if. After Tony Stark snapped his fingers with the Infinity Gauntlet, the world believed he was dead. The power coursing through him was unimaginable, but Stark had a split-second thought before he snapped. What happens to the world and all of the people he loved in it next? Before Iron Man snapped, that one scenario that the Avengers win in, Tony used the stones to stop time itself, freezing the universe in place. For an infinite moment, he looked into the multiverse, searching for alternate Earths and different versions of himself. His greatest fear wasn't that he would die. It was that somewhere out there, another Tony Stark might make the wrong choice and undo everything the Avengers had fought for. He had to make sure his sacrifice counted. He had to know if there was a version of himself that went too far. Traveling through the infinite multiverse, Stark saw countless versions of Earth. In some realities, the Avengers lost. In others, Thanos never came to Earth at all. But as he pushed deeper into the quantum web of possibilities, he found a world unlike any other. He had used his brilliance and the ruthlessness of Dr. Doom to forge an empire. Iron Doom had achieved absolute control, not through diplomacy or understanding, but by stripping away free will. People didn't choose peace, they were programmed to obey it. Stark confronted Iron Doom, and the truth was laid bare. In this reality, after the snap, Tony didn't die. He survived and disillusioned with the endless cycle of conflict, one that culminated with the defeat of this universe's Dr. Doom. Stark decided that humanity couldn't be trusted with freedom. Learning from Doom's artifacts, notes, and under Doctor Strange's guidance before Strange realized how evil Stark had become, Tony fused his advanced technology with sorcery, allowing him to dominate Earth and the multiverse beyond. For years, Iron Doom had ruled, justifying his tyranny with the peace he had created. They don't suffer anymore. Iron Doom said with chilling certainty. Isn't that what we wanted? To stop the fighting forever? But Tony saw what had been lost. The cost of Iron Doom's utopia was too high. Without freedom, without the ability to choose, humanity was nothing more than an extension of Iron Doom's will. This wasn't the peace Stark had fought for. It was a twisted version of his dream, one that reduced life to an algorithm of order. Tony could feel the burden of Iron Doom's reign pressing down on his conscience. In this alternate life, he had built a regime so powerful that no one could rise against him. Stark's brilliance and Doom's ruthlessness had been merged into a force that couldn't be challenged. But in doing so, Iron Doom had lost what made him human: empathy, compassion, and the understanding that the human spirit is not meant to be controlled. Even the brightest minds can cast the darkest shadows. Stark watched as Iron Doom showed him a world where no one questioned authority, where creativity and free thought had been stifled in exchange for security. This lifetime of domination had shaped Iron Doom into a being who saw no difference between being a savior and a tyrant. Stark realized that this alternate version of himself had made a fatal mistake. He had taken the ultimate step in assuming control rather than trusting in the resilience of humanity. Tony knew then that he couldn't let this version of himself continue. He had seen the future, his future, if he didn't make a drastic change. The multiverse was vast, and Iron Doom's ambition would eventually stretch beyond his own Earth. He would expand his rule across dimensions, conquering every world in the name of peace. It would be the end of free will everywhere. With a heavy heart, Tony made the decision. He couldn't allow any possibility of Iron Doom's creation. The only way to ensure this was to make sure he himself, Tony Stark, and every other alternate version of himself truly died at the moment of the snap. No illusion, no retreat. The real sacrifice had to happen, or else his worst nightmare would come to life. Tony returned to the moment of the snap, and this time, he allowed the full force of the Infinity Stones to consume him. He let himself die, knowing that by doing so, he would stop any potential future where Iron Doom could rise. Back in his home reality, time resumed, and Stark was gone. His body lay still, his sacrifice honored. But in the multiverse, something shifted. The timeline where Iron Doom existed began to unravel. Without the foundation of Stark's survival after the snap, that universe collapsed. And the people of that Earth, finally free, could choose their own future. The Watcher, observing from his place beyond time, marveled at Stark's decision. Tony Stark, the man who had always sought control through his intellect and technology, had finally understood the true meaning of sacrifice. He had given up not just his life, but the chance to ever take the path of tyranny. In doing so, he saved not just his world, but countless others. His ultimate sacrifice ensured that no version of him would ever betray the ideals he had fought for. And somewhere, in the vast expanse of the multiverse, the ghost of Iron Doom faded into nothingness, a future that would never come to pass. "I am Iron Man," Tony had said, and in the end, he had proven it.